Hello, I'm author Bob Pierce, and welcome back to the studio. I know it's been a long pull for you after many months and maybe even years, draft after draft after draft, all the research, inspirations, the plot strategies, the illustrations you've dredged up, and even the cover design that you've envisioned and put together. It's now time to finally upload your finished product. I certainly hope that these videos have been a help to you. Talked a lot about how I do it and how the whole system of publishing works. There are a lot of different publishing companies out there, self-publishing operations that use, well, somewhat different methods, but they're all pretty similar. So even though they may do it differently than I do, this will at least give you some direction. So now, hey, it's time finally to commit your baby to ink and paper. Now, as I said, there are a lot of different self-publishing operations out there, and well, some of them are kind of short-lived and some of them are kind of new on the scene. They basically fall into a few different categories. One of them is basically the printing companies. They're not really publishing companies per se, and their goal is to sell you books. And if you sign on with them, you'll pay a fee, usually several $1,000s, and in return you'll get cases full of books, usually 500 or 1,000 or more at a time, and that you're basically on your own to try and market and sell. There are others that are similar, but they're more of a publishing operation where they do give you some support, a little help with the marketing, some connections with wholesale distributors and things like that. There are some options, some opportunities, and so forth with them. Again, it's a pretty substantial fee if you want to get into that sort of thing, but that's an option that, well, frankly, I've done some layout and design work for other authors, and that was their choices. And whatever works best for you, I guess, is what it all boils down to. I myself use Kindle, formerly CreateSpace. It's owned by Amazon, and it's an on-demand printing operation. On demand basically means that whenever somebody orders a book, they print it and ship it, including you. If you want to order some books to sell, they'll sell it to you for cost, plus shipping, of course. And then you can take and distribute them however you like, sell them in local stores, all of that sort of thing. They do have some international marketing zones that you can select and get involved with. There are also the options of e-publishing. They own now Kindle as well, and so you can get an ebook put together as well as the ink and paper version. Now in this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of uploading a book. I've recently finished Soldiers, Statesmen, Thieves, and Spies, my Civil War gold story. It won't be released until spring, but we're going to go through the process with you right now so you can see with Kindle how the process works. Again, it will be probably pretty similar with other services, so at least if you use one of the other services that are out there, you'll have some sort of nuts and bolts understanding of the terminology and how it all works. Now, you'll have to have an account with Kindle. If you have an account with Amazon, I'm not sure if it can work backwards like that, but if you set up the Kindle account, because they're owned by Amazon, you can use it for other purposes on Amazon. But there are some things that are specific to the publishing arm of Kindle that you'll need to set up. First of all, you'll need a password and a username for Kindle. You can, I believe, use the same ones that you use for Amazon if you have something already set up. You'll need to set up a way to receive royalty payments and to pay for your books. So if you're going to buy some books at cost, which you may not think you're going to do, but you're going to do it. you want to hold these things in your hands. You want to look at them. You want to share them with your friends, maybe even sell them somewhere locally. So that's something you're going to have to be able to do. And it is kind of a requirement by them anyway. So what I did when I started doing this book publishing thing several years ago was I went to a local bank, something that wasn't nationally sucked up by somebody else, some sort of a local bank chain, and set up an account, a checking account that had a debit card attached to it. The debit card I can use to make purchases, and the checking account give Amazon the routing information, and your royalties get direct deposited into your account. It's a nice system. I, for one, don't trust the internet when it comes to economics. I don't like ordering stuff online, but this is a pretty big operation, and I trust them pretty well. But still, this account is separate from the household accounts and other things that if somebody were to hack into something that they shouldn't, I know Amazon's probably a pretty big and juicy target for those sorts of people. We're protected, and we won't have any problems beyond whatever happens with that. There are a lot of peripheral profile things and marketing things that you can get into with Amazon at a later date. But once you have to have the book set up and uploaded and gone live, that's the way they phrase it, before you can do that. But there are a lot of options, and I do recommend you take advantage of any or all of them that you possibly can. Now, the new Kindle system is a little bit more involved than the previous CreateSpace was, but it's infinitely more intuitive. CreateSpace was not all that intuitive for people who are not familiar with the publishing industry. And frankly, having been in the publishing industry for decades, there were things about it that I didn't get. And the online help is way better with Kindle than it was ever with CreateSpace. I've had a couple, well, when they did the conversion, I had a lot of questions and was able to get a hold of people pretty quickly with Amazon and get clear answers. I guess they're used to dealing with a lot of people who don't know the printing industry, and so they, I don't like to use the phrase dumb it down, but make their explanations a little more pedestrian than most might. So it's a little easier to understand if you're not familiar with the terminology and so forth. One of the things, though, that they did change, which is kind of a pain, with CreateSpace, you can't finalize your text pages until you have your ISBN number to drop into the copyright page. So I can't make the PDF file until I've already gone into my dashboard and registered the book. With CreateSpace, it was no big deal. All they really wanted to know was the title and things like that, and then they would issue a barcode and an ISBN number. With Kindle, however, it's a little more involved. You got to get a little further into the process before they do that. You'll see that in just a few minutes when we go through the step-by-step online. So one of the things they ask for before you go into it is the description of your book. CreateSpace didn't ask for that until afterwards, which was convenient. I could go downstairs to the PC, get the book registered in like 5 minutes, and come back upstairs with my UPC code and my ISBN number on a thumb drive, and just go into the computer and finish things up, and then take the whole thing downstairs in one pass and get it done. It's a multi-step operation now. And so what the first thing is that I typically do, because I don't like backtracking, is to get that descriptive copy written and ready to go before I even begin the process. What I did for this book, what I typically do, is I take that back cover promotional copy, you saw us talk about that in previous videos, and kind of manipulate it a little bit, have a little more room, a little more a little more of a leeway to be a little more verbose, a little more. Don't get too lengthy with it. Just give them the basics, the nuts and bolts, so that they'll be enticed to buy the book. That's all potential buyers really need. So that get that all taken care of, and then I can get things started. So first things first. First step is to get online and get that ISBN number. Once you have your Kindle account set up with Amazon, you can get to your dashboard, which should look something like this. Now, I have several other books that are already in print, so if you were to scroll down here, you'd see the whole bunch of them all listed there. And now you can see, too, why it's important to have an eye-catching cover. And right now, these are all my books, so I'm only competing with myself. But if you go to any of these download sites or Amazon itself, for example, that's the sort of thing you're going to see. So your cover needs to have that impact, just to kind of reinforce that. Now, once you've got everything all set up for your account, it's time to get your first book set up. And the first thing you need to do is to click New Title. Right here is your option for setting up your paperback book. You can also set up an ebook with Kindle. We'll get into that a little bit later. Right now we're talking ink and paper, so click Create a New Title, Paperback. Now the step-by-step on this is actually pretty straightforward. The previous iteration of this, called CreateSpace, was simpler and it was a shorter process, but it wasn't as intuitive. This is a little more complicated, but it all makes a whole lot more sense, especially if you're somebody who isn't very knowledgeable about the printing industry. So we're going to take this through step by step. The first thing they ask is what language your book is written in, and my books typically are written in English. And then book title. What is the title of the book going to be, and a subtitle if there is such a thing. After the book title, they ask if this book is part of a series. If it is, this is where you would put the information in. Mine is a standalone novel, so there is no series involved, there's no edition number involved. The author, that would be you, you're the author. Primary author or contributor. So prefix if you want to use Mr., Miss, or something like that. Otherwise, because I've done this a few times, it comes up as a pop-up. I don't generally use my middle initial or anything, and I don't have any suffix that I like to include either. Contributors, if there are any other contributors to it, if you have a co-author, if it's a picture book and you want to mention the photographers or anything like that. Description, now this is where you have to put in that description we talked about. It won't let you get any further. You notice we haven't gotten to the ISBN information quite yet, and until you complete this page, you won't. So you need to put that in there. Now it doesn't let you go seek after it, so what you want to do is have it prepared as a Word document or RTF or something like that. Copy and paste it. And just drop it in there. What I find is that the returns sometimes look a little weird. So I just want to take a quick run through it, make sure everything works. Looks good from here. As you can see, we still have 2,526 characters left. You can drone on and on and on about your book if you really want to, but take it from me, nobody's going to read it. People are lazy. I've said that before. They'll scroll through this, and it won't be a little window like this when it shows up, but about half of this much will show on the page with your book listing, and if they're interested, they'll continue reading. So you really got to kind of hit them with that first couple of lines. Publishing rights, you need to make the declaration that this is your own material, that you wrote this, you own it, and you own the necessary publishing rights. And that includes the photographs too. That's another reason why I keep harping on copyright infringements and making sure you get your pictures legally. Keywords, these are what search engines are going to look for. So we're going to put in 7 keywords. It says here it's optional, but I don't think it is, frankly. If you want to sell any of these books, you want to make sure people can find it. So we're going to drop in 7 keywords here so that the search engines like Google and Yahoo and I don't know if Alta Vista even exists anymore, but any of them that are out there will be able to come across your book if somebody's looking for anything in these particular genres. So for this particular book, I've included some of the keywords that I think people would probably be looking for, or might put in looking for something else and stumble on my book as a result. Civil War, Confederate gold, spies, soldiers, theft, James Butler, Wild Bill Hickok, and Mark Twain. The next part is kind of important. It's the categories, and this is how people, particularly people who are using some sort of inventory system, like people who own brick and mortar bookstores and things like that, or somebody who's just looking for a good mystery or whatever it is your genre is. So you want to make sure you fill this out. Choose categories, and again, on your back cover, you're going to include these categories. I've already done it because I've gone through this process so many times. I knew what to include. But if you're not sure what to put in there, in that little space above the UPC barcode, this is a good way to go about it. Now, it'll have categories and subcategories as we go along. Fiction, which it is, of course, and it has many subcategories that then break down into additional subcategories. We're going to look for, here we go, crime, but there might be something more appropriate. So I always want to take a look through historical. Now, this does involve the Civil War and a legendary situation with that gold. So we want to make sure we click that. It won't let you click more than one. So you're going to have to just pick what you think is the most appropriate. Action and adventure, well, that would certainly apply, but I think the idea of it being an historical fiction really kind of makes the point best. So save it. And that's essentially, I had a couple of additional things on that as well, on the book cover itself. But this, if somebody's searching for it, searching for these, that should put 1 and 1 together and come up with 3. Anyway, large print edition, if it is large print, you want to click that because some people are looking for that. Adult content. Now, this doesn't just refer to pornography. This refers to anything that you think that little kids really shouldn't be reading. In this particular case, the language is relatively clean. The situations, nothing really compromising in any of it. Images inappropriate for children under 18 age. I've read things as involved as this when I was in high school and even junior high. So I mean, the Martian Chronicles was definitely more involved than my book is. So definitely we're there. So we're going to say no, it's not adult content. So you can save it as a draft and leave it here and come back to it and complete it later, or you can save and continue. Like I said, we still haven't gotten to the ISBN thing yet because that's what we're looking for right now. There it is, top of the next page. Now, you have two options. If you've gone out and bought your own ISBN number and coughed up the bucks that it took to do that, click that button and it'll give you prompts to upload the information and the code and the bars and so forth. They offer free barcodes and free ISBN numbers, and if you're not rich, as most of us in this world are when it comes to self-publishing, then you're probably going to want to take advantage of this. I do. I've published a dozen books so far. This is number 13, and every single one of them I've clicked on this. Now, it says here that you can use this to publish your book, and you can use it for distribution through Amazon and distribution partners. You'll see what all that's about later on. But you can't use it with any other publishers or publishing services, and you can't use it for any other variation of the book. The ISBN number identifies this book, this version, this publisher, etc., etc., etc. If you decide to do a second edition, make some changes or whatever, and upload a second edition, you'll need a new ISBN number, but they'll prompt you through all of that then. So assign ISBN. Bink. Now, there's your ISBN number, and also a line that says imprint, independently published. That has to appear with it. So we want to put this on the copyright page. So what we're going to do is copy this, and we're going to tack it onto that Word file. Just stick it at the end somewhere where we can find it later. Save it. Close it. So we're going to leave Kindle open while we're going back to the Macintosh to add this ISBN number and finalize the PDF file for the text pages. So right now we're going to eject our USB flash drive and head upstairs, make that change, and then come back to the PC and finish the process. So with my ISBN number on a thumb drive, I went back into my InDesign file for the text pages and added it to the copyright page so that now I can finish up the PDF file. One caveat when you do that, make sure if you're using bleeds for your pictures and stuff that you actually have the bleeds turned on when you make the file. There's an option in there to click about using the software's bleed dimensions, so make sure that is switched on. Getting to the cover, to make that, you need to make sure that the actual file dimensions are the size of the two covers and the spine with the bleed all the way around. Something that looks like this. Now, to figure out how wide that spine needs to be, you need to know how many pages your book has. So while I was in the InDesign file for the text pages, I took a count of the pages. There are 372 numbered pages from 1 through 372. 8 pages of front of book pages that are not numbered, not counted in the chapters. And Amazon is going to add a sheet in the back, which will be 2 pages, to put their own inventory barcode on it to match up the text portion of your book with the cover portion, which are printed on 2 separate presses. So grand total 382 pages for this particular book. Now Kindle provides a formula for you to calculate out what the width of that spine needs to be. And they have different widths for the white paper or the cream colored paper. The cream colored paper being just a wee bit thicker than the white paper. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you have almost 400 pages going on, it does make a difference. So the multiplying factor is 0.0025 times 382 pages, ends up with a width of 0.995 inches for the spine. Now, you might think, hey, well, that's pretty close to an inch. We'll just round it off. No, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a pretty precise sort of thing. So you want to make sure that when you put this together, you take the three elements, the back cover, the front cover, and the spine, that your spine space is precisely 0.995 inches, or whatever it works out to for your book. In this case, the distance from one edge of this thing to the other, which includes the bleed on the outside of the front cover, the bleed on the outside of the back cover, the two covers themselves, of course, and the spine itself, works out to 13.245 inches overall. And vertically, because it's a 6x9 book, it's 9 inches plus the bleed, which is 1/8 of an inch at the top and the bottom, which is a grand total of 9.25, 9 1/4 inches altogether. So the file size, your document size, your PDF needs to be precisely 9 1/4 tall by 13.245 inches wide, and that is the size that they will trim it out when you put the book together. If you screw it up, they'll let you know. So now we've got all the elements ready. Make our PDF files. Because we go from a Mac to a PC, I have to move everything around on a thumb drive. You may be able to do it all on the same computer, but in either case, with the two PDF files ready to go, you're ready to get back to that dashboard and pick up right where you left off. So after having copied and pasted the ISBN number into the copyright page of my text file, I created the PDF file for the text pages and for the cover. Now that gives me two PDF files. One's in color for the cover spread. The other is black and white for all the interior pages. Come back to the Kindle Direct Publishing pages here and just pick up where we left off. The next thing after the ISBN is your publication date. That will be today, whatever the day is that you upload it. Printing options, this is where you're going to make some particular decisions. And this is why when we talked in earlier videos about making decisions and choices about page size and margins and all these other factors, you needed to make them at the beginning before you did all the layout of the book and even some of the writing of the book, so that when you got to the end of the road, as it were, to this stage here, you would have everything all set to just drop in place without having to go back and fix anything. So the interior and paper type. Now we're going to use black and white interior with cream paper. The cream paper, it's kind of important. It's nice that they offer the option. The cream is a little easier on the eyes. It also, if you're doing something historical, gives it a little better look, if you will. The white is a very bright white. The black on the white looks a little more stark. It also makes your pictures pop in black and white a little better. So it's kind of a trade-off in that regard. But the important thing to remember is the cream paper is just a wee bit thicker than the white paper. So if you're going to calculate out the width of your spine, you need to know which kind of paper you're ultimately going to select. And so the cream paper, the formula for it, will make the spine just a hair bigger than the white paper. And that's important because you don't want your spine image to either creep around the front or back cover or be too narrow so that the covers creep around to the spine. This way it's precise. The trim size, I always go with 6x9, so-called trade size. The bookstores like it. The proportions look right on the thumbnails online. Bleed settings, yes, we are bleeding, and we're bleeding, we've talked about before. We've left a little margin around the edges to be trimmed off so that our pictures go right to the edge of the sheet. Cover material. Now the finish, this is a laminate that they put on the cover. After it's printed, it could be either a glossy laminate or a matte laminate, which is a dull finish. Undoubtedly, you've seen both out in the world. For this particular book, I'm going to opt for the matte because I kind of like it for old historical kind of themes. It just kind of helps make the look more appropriate, and that too plays into the cream paper, gives the whole book kind of a nice feel. So your manuscript, this is your interior pages. This is where we upload that PDF file. A lot of explanation here about different file types and so forth, and so you need to make sure that you follow this. I stick with PDF. It's universal. Everybody and his brother uses it, as well as Amazon and Kindle. So upload, and we've got a thumb drive in the machine right now with all the stuff for this this book for Kindle and text. Double click that, let it upload. With the text pages successfully uploaded, the next step is to go to the cover. Now they give you a couple of options for the cover. It says here, and this is the default, use Cover Creator to make your cover and upload your own cover image or use stock images from Kindle, yada yada. You can go ahead and do that if you want, if you don't have a way to do the cover. I seriously recommend you have your cover done either professionally by someone else or do it yourself if you have the capacity to do it, because that way you have complete control over the design. So this downplayed little line down here, upload the cover you've already made. So we're going to click that, and then upload my cover, which is this other file right here. So now with both the manuscript, your interior text files, and the cover uploaded successfully, you can move on to the next stage here and launch your preview. Now, when you launch the preview, it's going to take some time to process. You'll probably want to come back to it later on in the day or something like that. It could take several hours even. But then what they're going to do is go through all of your pages, all of your covers, make sure everything fits, everything works correctly. If there's any glaring issues, then you're going to get a flag to fix them, and you can do that and re-upload your files later on. Once everything is okay at this phase, and this is kind of a rudimentary checklist, if you will, you'll hit OK, save it, and publish it. And then they'll do a much more comprehensive check of your files. And in the end, if there's any problems, again, you'll have the opportunity to fix them and upload new files and go through that part of the process again. You don't have to go through the whole thing from the beginning, just the part from where you upload the files to this end part again, until finally it says, okay, you're good, your book has been launched. So right now we're going to launch the previewer and just let it take some time. In fact, it's going to tell you this is going to take some time. So this is their results of the check, the previewer that shows the pages as they will appear. Quality check, it tells you the things to check over here. Some particular things that they want you to point out. Some of the things about the specifications, your ISBN number, the author's name, the title, so on and so forth. You're doing a paperback, and all these other things here. Please check if you use a template. Please check to prevent text from getting cut off. Now you'll notice these various dotted lines, and you'll see them on all the pages here. This outer dotted line, that is the bleed trim margin. That's where the 3-knife cutter is going to come down and chop off this extra on the edges, and that is going to create an image that ends at the edge of the page. As we explained in a previous video, Printing presses can't print to the edge of a sheet of paper. It needs a certain amount of blank margin to be able to actually physically pull the paper through the presses. And this new digital technology is no different. So they have to actually print this on a bigger sheet of paper and trim it down to the margins here. This red dotted line you see here that's in a little closer, that is what they call the live area. Anything outside of the live area is potentially going to get chopped off. It's a little bit of a leeway for the printers that if the registration isn't perfect and things a little off center or something on the sheet, you're not going to lose anything. You'll notice too that the barcode is in place here, your ISBN number and your UPC code, so that anybody who's going to stock your books, including Amazon, will have a way to inventory them. Now, we're going to take a look at a few of the pages here. We're not going to go through the whole thing for time's sake. Inside front cover, blank, of course. This is page 1. It'll be a right-hand page. And you can see the dotted lines here are a lot further in from the edge. The text pages inside has a much smaller live area, but we're going to bleed, so it's okay. We want to keep the text within that, but it's okay for the image to go beyond that. The centers, or the title spread, and then we have the copyright page with the ISBN number information in place. Dedications page. Moving on to the table of contents, we've got a full page photo on this side showing a scene from the Civil War. And moving on here, major players. All of these pages look correct. We've got the selected 2-page view. There are a few other views you can take. The introduction, going through the pages of the introduction. This is the reason why we include a finial at the end of every chapter, so that we're sure nothing's missing. There's no page missing, nothing got cut off. It's an easy, quick way to check. There's one at the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2, and so on through the book. And I'll take some time later on to go through this at some more specific, take a closer look at it. Right now, for purposes of the video, that gives a pretty good idea of where we're at. Now, as far as the guides and the bleeds and so forth, when I made the PDF file, the bleeds I selected use the software's bleed dimensions. So the pages are actually, this dimension is actually 6 1/8 by 9 1/4. So we have 1/8 of an inch bleed going off in all directions. No bleed on the inside, obviously. That goes into the glued folds there. And looking at the, let me just run back here real quick to something with a picture on it. Looking at this page here, you can see the edges here. They extend beyond the edge of the sheet. You can't really see it in this view, but because I know the PDF was done with the bleeds included, it should be just fine. So that's basically it. You can turn the guides off if you want. We can come back to this later on, which is what I'll do so that I can move on with the video. And so we're going to exit the print previewer for now, and we can come back to it later on. I'm just going to close this out for now, and we'll get back to this probably tomorrow morning. So now you're a published author. Time to spread the word. A lot of different ways you can do that. Amazon gives you a number of marketing, they call them channels, different ways that you can make your book available all over the place, worldwide actually. They have different channels in different countries. And, you know, that's not a bad idea. People in various countries who read English language books are always looking for some good American material to read and always looking for something new. So, yeah, take advantage of it. They don't charge anything more to click all the boxes if you want. I've sold books in Japan, in the UK, in Australia, one of them somewhere else in Europe. Belgium, I think it was. But anyway, you know, a few here and there. But it's kind of neat when you get that report from Amazon at the end of the month and you see, hey, sold a book in Australia, of all places. Wow, that's cool. From the little corner of Vermont all the way to Australia, literally the other side of the planet. That's pretty great. But they don't do really much in terms of actual advertising. That's all up to you. You'll have to find various options, various ways to do that. You can hire a marketing company. I've done it on a couple of occasions. I've found them to be mostly pirates. At least the ones that I dealt with. They took a lot of my money, set me up with a couple of irrelevant interviews with unheard of radio stations around the country, and really nothing came of it. All I can say is, with that caveat, vet them thoroughly before you invest any money into them. You may find it's worthwhile. You may be willing to spend the money and take the time to do the things that they ask you to do, and maybe something will come of it. So, you know, that's my experience. Take it for what it is. So it's been a lot of work. You've been at this for a long time, and now finally you have these books published. Tangible results of your hard-earned efforts. So now, what's next? Clear the decks and start on the next one. And I'm sure you have an idea by now. If you've been listening to these videos and taking some of my advice to heart, you've been going through life on, as I put it, absorbing things from all around you in the world, looking at people, picking up things at yard sales and stuff, imagining the backstories and writing them down yourself. You've probably accumulated notes, Post-its, and scraps of paper all over the place. I've showed you my studio before, all around the computer, covered in Post-it notes. That's the life of a writer, and if you want to keep writing, that's where you're going to be going, much to your family's chagrin, I suppose. But the books, man, what a rewarding experience when it's all said and done and you've got that book in your hand. You just can't stop. Like I said at the very beginning of all of this, it's like a drug, and once it bites, that creative flow, it's hard to turn it off. It really is. And so you're just looking for the next project all the time. So enjoy these videos. Hopefully they've been a big help. Reminder once again, if I can be of any additional help, the email address is at the end of this video, so you can check that out. Drop me a line. I'll answer any questions, well, any questions I can anyway. Or if you just need a little encouragement, just need a little inspiration, if there's something I can do to help you out, let me know. We've done these videos for free. Obviously, we didn't spend a lot of money on production value. We bought the sign. That's a pretty cool sign. But other than that, but it's all about the nuts and bolts. It's all about the information and all about the encouragement. I have found it to be such a rewarding experience myself. I want to share that with you. So if you're a writer and you want to write and you want to get your book done, please take advantage of whatever's on these videos. Any of the information that's on here will help you along in that process. And don't be afraid to drop me a line. And hey, you know, if you get through this whole thing and you've got a book published and you want to let me know, drop me an email and say, hey, Bob, I went through your videos. I did all the things that you suggested, and my book is now published. Maybe give me a link to it so I can go check it out. That would be fun. It's nice to hear back when somebody is successful about this. So, until next time, I'm Bob Pierce from the studio.